All right, folks, get another show out there. Talk about this bowl game, Oregon State coming up this weekend, 2:30 on Saturday. Um, I'm kind of intrigued by the game, the matchup. Oregon State's a cagey team, had some nice wins this year. Finishes 9-3. Seems kind of like a lopsided matchup, but I do think the game's going to be closer than a lot of people think. I think Florida's going to be ready, and play up for this game. Limited practices. It might be kind of sloppy, but I think the guys are going to be, passionate about getting this win. And very fired up for this bowl game. The guys that are playing, Guriage decided to play for his team. I really respect that. The guy's going to go pro and get paid. He's going to be a good NFL left tackle, in my opinion. He was a good player. We had a really good offensive line. Some of the positives this year were the offensive line and the running game and the design of the run plays. Outside of that, I would say it was a disappointing season for Billy Napier in his first year. Definitely, some ups and downs, 6-6. Vegas had a 7-6, so not a total shock. Get the bowl win, you get that seventh win, you're right on Vegas's number. But I'm not super high on Oregon State with their quarterback play. I think the defense has some opportunities here to make some plays if we can stop their run game. They do have a very good run game. you know, Respectable defense inside their conference nationally. Just an average national defense. We can score points on them. We've scored points on better defenses throughout the season, in a better league in the SEC. But still a really tough matchup for Florida, against a team who's going to be having, a full roster of guys who aren't going to be transferring out as much at as high of a rate as Florida has. Florida is one of the most depleted rosters in the country right now. There were 20 guys transferring out and guys going to the NFL, guys graduating. A lot of guys are not playing the bowl game. We're not going to have our best linebacker, Ventrell Miller. Again, I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. Disappointing season, like I said, 6-6. Feels like AR just was a waste of a year with him. Very underwhelming performance by him. First year coach. I really thought he should have came back, but I respect his decision. I understand you can't turn down generational money that will have him set the rest of his life. And if he makes it in the NFL to a second contract, again, the kid's set for life. You can't blame him for that, but definitely underwhelming. Defensive side of the ball was very disappointing. A regression from last year from Todd Grantham. I didn't think you could get any worse than that, but we did somehow with a lot of the same guys. This roster is being turned over and flipped. So want to get really into the recruiting news. Um, you got to give these guys one more year. We're going to give them all year, a second year to prove themselves, especially Patrick Toney. Recruiting is looking up, 11th ranked class, definitely falling down some, but this class will be inside the top 10 when it's all said and done. The Florida Gators are pretty much, a lock so far for Fletcher, the running back out of Florida, 4-star running back, 9-0, 4.9, I think, rating on 247 Sports. He's got a crystal ball to the Gators, so look for him to be in the class as a second running back with Trayon Webb. Really good prospect, similar running style to Trayon Webb. There's definitely better guys out there higher on the board. Cedric Baxter, guys we missed on. But this is still two really good backs in the class. Trayon Webb is one of my favorite players in the class. Kid's been recruiting his butt off for the Gators. It was a big weekend. You had John Walker, the UCF commit, on campus. We've done shot or shot. We got as good a chance as ever to flip him from UCF. A lot of people are calling for the flip. I think that one's a 50-50 toss-up, whether he stays or comes to the Gators. I think it's just his mom really wants him at UCF for some reason. Florida's got everything the kid wants, early playing time, the education, NIL. So we'll just have to see what happens. But I'm 50-50. I'm really split on him at the moment. I don't know where he's going. Florida's really respected his recruitment with UCF. They haven't negative recruited them. And I think that's gone a long way in earning his respect for Florida. Samson Okunola, 5-star offensive lineman. Florida made big inroads here, made a big push, a lot of momentum on the Gator side. Again, another 50-50 toss-up for me. I have no idea where this kid's going. If I had to pick right now, my mind would say Gators, with my Gator glasses on, I would say Florida Gators. I do believe we impressed him a lot. I think he likes Florida. But with these kids now in NIL, my pick is going to be Miami. I hope I'm wrong, but Miami's just throwing around stupid money from what I've heard. And this is very much one of those NIL recruitments, kind of like Jaden Rashada. A lot of the insiders out there think it could come down to the wire. So with Ruiz, the lawyer that's been throwing around money for Miami, I'm gonna pick him. I'm gonna pick him going to Miami right now. But again, he's a 50-50 toss up to me between the Gators and Miami. He still likes both schools a lot. I think he'd be making a massive mistake by going to Miami. And I'm not just saying that as a Gator. I don't think they're trending up in any kind of way. Their class, if you look at it, is really lopsided. Our class, top to bottom, is better. And when we finish this cycle, I think we'll end up, almost even with them in recruiting. Eighth, ninth, you can flip those. You're talking about splitting a point in recruiting. As far as point totals, like 275, 274. That's basically a dead even class. But ours is so much better quality. If you look at our average grade per commit and how many 4-stars we have in this class, it's just better than Miami's. Miami's is really top heavy with a couple talented guys. That's not going to get you consistency on the field. It takes 11 guys to play defense and offense. One guy can't make all the difference in the world. Now, when you got 11 guys on the field that are 4-stars, and you got that one or two players that are generational talents that are 5-stars, that can change a game. That can impact the game. That's a difference maker. But by himself with a bunch of 3-stars, or real low 4-stars, just not going to make a massive difference. So Miami to me is trending down. Florida's kind of, trending up in recruiting. On the field, I would say, just holding par, kind of same result we've had the last few seasons. Maybe even a little worse besides last year, but where this team is at, where it's been with the talent, kind of opened our eyes, I think, a little bit. The AR wasn't quite what we thought he was. Don't think he was ready, to really flourish in Billy's system this year. If he'd have come back for a second year, I think he really could have put up some massive numbers and done some big things. I just not sure where he's going to go, how he's going to fit in the NFL. Still doesn't fit the pro style offense, if you ask me. And I'm not, he just gets injured a lot. He's always hurt. So I don't know if he can take the game in the NFL, and stay healthy. That's going to be his biggest question mark. So I think that's why he fought through a lot of the pain and the injuries this season to try to show NFL scouts he can make it through a whole season, but it hampered his performance so much that that's going to stick out in their minds, I think. So, again, I don't see a lot of success for him there. But, yeah, recruiting battles, Fletcher, Gators, Okinola, toss-up, tight end, Platt. It's probably between us and Texas A&M. I like the Gators here, top 100 tight end. We really need a tight end in this class. We're really, really, really thin at that position. We need a talented guy there. There's just not a lot on the roster at that spot. You got Arliss Boardingham from last year, 4-star kid. Really like him. I think he's going to be big for the Gators next year. Would love to have those two together on the field. That would be awesome. So that's another kid. I think he's in the class at the end of all this. You put those two guys in, that's easily. You put Fletcher and just Platt in, that makes this a top 10 class. Hands down, no problem. Probably comes in at 9th or 10th. You start adding guys in like Walker and that 5-star offensive tackle, Sampson. He's big on his brand, Honcho Pancakes or something like that. I can't remember what it's called. But he's big on NIL and generating his brand. I think he does better and well with that at Florida. So he's got to be considering that. The exposure he's going to get in the SEC. Miami's games, don't even hardly draw a national audience and national, primetime slots. Florida does. He's going to get a lot more exposure at Florida to promote himself. So I do think Florida, I go back and forth on that one. Like I said, you throw him in this class with those other two, and you're talking about a 7th-ranked class, and you throw one more in there, another 4-star like Walker, this class could be as high as 5th or 6th in the country. So the possibility is still there to have a top 5 class, which would be amazing. That would be an elite close by this staff. I think if you just get Platt and Fletcher, it's a good close. And you got Caden Jones. He's pretty much a lock to Florida. Everybody's calling crystal balls to Florida on this kid. He's a project, 6'5", 308-pound offensive tackle. He's an 8'8", high-level three-star. I think he'll produce at the next level, you know, kind of like an Austin Barber. Austin Barber was ranked very similar, and you guys see how talented he is and how well he's done on this offensive line at right tackle. I think Caden Jones is a talented kid, and I think a couple years in a weight room, definitely not going to contribute year one. But you throw him in this class with Fletcher and the tight end Platt, I think that's a really good close. You throw in some of the higher guys like Walker and Okanola, it's a great to elite close. So that's where we're at basically with the 23 class. That's mainly the only guys that I'm really hearing a lot about out there in the news. Um, I'm trying to think. There's one other, Keon Keeley, IMG. They're still after him. That's another big time edge guy. I think Florida's still in it, but I think we're on the outside. I think we're running second or third in that recruitment on the outside looking in. But he's another one that would make this class elite. Could really push us up the rankings. And as far as the transfer portal goes, I've heard, I think it's Pratt, Tulane quarterback, is a guy that's out there. He's following a lot of our coaches and players on social media. Hasn't gotten the transfer portal yet, or maybe he just entered, but he's a guy that Florida's really interested in. I'm very high on him as our quarterback for next year. You've also got the kid out of Coastal Carolina that a lot of people like. I mean, he's more of a system quarterback, put up big, gaudy numbers. I would be happy with him or the Pratt kid out of Tulane. Uh, Leary is another guy that I was high on, but after really watching the film, he's pretty underwhelming. I really want a guy that's mobile, that can run in the pocket, move around and make things happen with his legs. And he just is not a mobile quarterback. Just really bad numbers this year. He did get hurt. I think he's a solid player, but man, honestly, if I'm looking at him or Jack Miller, I guess I'll have to make my decision on that. I think they're kind of holding out a little bit to see what Miller does in this bowl game. If Miller is very successful and puts up big numbers in the bowl game, they may just take another guy, um, take a chance on another guy. Mertz was on Graham Mertz, Wisconsin transfer quarterback, was on campus in Gainesville this past weekend. They may take a depth guy like that. I know that would really trigger Gator Nation. I would not be excited about that pickup at all. I mean, the kid just very underwhelming, terrible numbers, a lot of interceptions. So I really hope Florida's not really seriously looking at him. I think that's like a Plan C option if you ask me. I'm trying to think of the kid's name out of Coastal Carolina. Oh, shoot, it's not coming to me right now. But yeah, anyways, guys, so that's kind of the news out there. We got Caleb Banks, committed defensive lineman. They're saying this kid could be elite off the edge. Definitely a lot of untapped potential is the words that are out there on the Louisville side of it. Louisville's produced a lot of really good defensive linemen, a lot of good edge rushers. Um, so, they've had an eye for talent. So I think this is a big gift for Florida at a position of need on this roster. I think he's an upgrade over what was there or what we've lost. As far as anybody else goes, I have no idea. I know as soon as this bowl game's over, it's going to be transfer portal fever. We're going to be hard after these guys in the portal. With that many roster departures, this staff better get its butt in gear, man, because a lot of guys are already in the portal. A lot of guys are committing to other schools. I know Florida's bowl game kind of comes at a weird time. You got signing day right after that, so I think we're going to lock up and see what we get in this class, and then we're just going to take off in the transfer portal. You're going to start seeing probably a couple guys a week committing to the Gators out of the portal, out of necessity, really. There's really no option here, no choice for Florida to not take guys. Even if they're playing B or C guys, we're going to have to take them to have the roster, the scholarship spots. I think this class is going to have to play early. A lot of these guys are going to have to get on the field and see a lot of significant snaps. Especially on the defensive line. Jervon Dexter's gone. Good solid player for the Gators. I appreciate him as a player, what he did for the university. He did it the right way. I appreciate all these guys, man, what they did for the Gators. Again, we had some wins during the year. We had some fun games to watch. They played okay at times. None of them are big losses to me. I don't think Jervon Dexter is a huge loss. I think he's a, late second round, third round guy. A lot of Florida defensive linemen haven't done super well in the NFL in recent history. you know, just really haven't performed up to expectations. The ones that have gotten drafted, we've had some big time names, big time draftees come out of Florida. You know, Taven Bryan, just a bunch of guys. So I don't know. You know, Ja'Kai Polite was a big bust there. You know, he should have stayed another year. You know, he's already pretty much out of the NFL. I don't even know if he's on a practice squad anymore. Um, but we're going to be loaded guys at receiver. So I'm not really worried so much about the offensive side of the ball. I think Cameron Waits is going to be a good player for the Gators next year. Um, but again, let's get back to the bowl game. So bowl game, I don't expect Florida to win this game. I would love it if we could somehow pull this out. That'd be a very impressive victory for Florida to get a win and get over 500 to end the season. You know, I think it would be big for recruiting. It would be big for recruiting in the transfer portal. Show these guys something on the field. So show some improvement on defense and some coaching acumen with, you know, very little to work with. But that's all I got for you guys today. Just want to get the latest news out there about the portal, recruiting, and just some quick talk about the bowl game. Hope you guys have a good week. Go Gators.